Hey, welcome back to the Crabby Dice. Today we're going to be looking at the game Aquasphere, which is a great Stefan Feld game where the theme is we're going to be sort of scientists in our underwater station here, analyzing crystals and trying to get the most points possible, alright? So this is going to be the setup and rules video. Click on the link below for my review and playthrough video, but like usual, 3 things before we start. Please like, subscribe, and comment on my YouTube channel. That would be fantastic. Let's get started. Alright, let's get to the setup. So let's set up our 2 main game boards here. So first you have your headquarters and then you have your station. So your headquarters is 2 puzzle pieces, just connect them together. We'll get to that in a couple of seconds. And your station makes up 6 puzzle pieces. Jumble them around. They don't have to be in alphabetical order, but then just set them up in a circle as you see. Alright, let's deal with the headquarters first. So the first thing you're going to want to do is grab your programming cards here. So there's a bunch of them in the game. What you can do is shuffle them, flip some of them over because they are double-sided, and then take exactly 4 of them from the top of the deck. The rest could be thrown back into the box. Okay, don't look at the cards except for the first one here, and the top one's going to tell you how your initial programming tiles are going to be set. So you have your little tiles here. You're going to look at the card and just place them where they belong. Black, purple, blue, red, green, wild. Alright, like that. Let's just finish off the setup of the headquarters. So what you're going to do is each player is going to put one of their scientists on the starting space here. You're going to put one of each player's robots on the turn order track over here. They say to use your initial lab as a starting turn order thing, but you know what, just randomize it. So and then just go clockwise around the table. So let's just do red, blue, and yellow. Okay, each player is going to put one of their cubes on the 0 times around the track, and then one on each of the 0 point spots right over here. Alright, now let's deal with our station. So the first thing you want to do is set up your center tiles. Okay, you're going to have these hexagonal tiles, and at the bottom here beneath the points it's going to tell you how many players these tiles are good for, and you're going to always have a number 2, 3, 4, and 5. You're going to always put them in the same order, and then what you're going to do is not shuffle them, but change their orientation because their orientation actually matters. And then when you think you've done that enough, set them straight, and then just lay it on the game board. Alright, some other things we need to set up around the game board. You're going to have your sort of lab extensions here. You're going to put one next to each of the green spots on the game board. That's where you're going to go get your lab extensions. And you're going to do the exact same thing with the research cards. So there's research cards, there's the red cards. You can give it a good shuffle, and you're going to put them next to each of the red spots. Alright, we're almost done, but we're going to be right back. Let's take care of our player boards first. So each player is going to get a player mat. Alright, now, Terra Mystica style, you're each going to put your robots on the appropriate robot spaces here, the 2 lines here, or 2 rows. And then you're going to put your submarines on the bottom space over here. You should have exactly 6 of them. Okay. Lastly, you're going to give each player one of these random lab tiles. Again, you could have used this letter as the starting player order, but just randomize it, it's fine. And this letter will actually tell you where your initial scientist is going to go and where your initial robot is going to start. So let's look at that first. So it's C. So I'm going to take my scientist here. I'm going to find the lab with the C on it, and I'm going to place him in the blue section. Okay. I'm going to be right back, but the other thing you need to notice is the color of the white robot space over here. This is going to tell you where your initial robot starts. So this is yellow. So I'm going to take my extra robot here and place him on the yellow track. Okay. Sorry. Alright, now we have to give everyone their initial time markers. So you would normally always start with 4, but if you ever start your scientist next to one of the tunnel, which is the 0 space, which would be at this point, if you were starting at F or B, you would only start with 3. So no, start with 4 or 3. Alright, in this case, I'm not starting next to the 0, so I'll start with 4. Alright, now, the last thing we need to do is just fill up the board. That's where we're going to look at our handy dandy setup card right over here. So let me show you. So in each of the regions where players start, the player is going to put their scientists, which we already did. They're going to put one of their submarines, they're going to put an octopod, and they're going to put a crystal. And they're going to put 4 time markers. So let's just deal with that. I'll just do it for my initial space here. So 4 time markers here, 1 octopod, 1 crystal, and I'm going to take one of my submarines and place it on the lowest spot available on the submarine track. Alright, you're going to do that for all 3 players. So let's say yellow was at F and the other player was on D. Okay, so let's say these 3 are occupied. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is pick another of the 3 random spaces, and they're going to start with 2 octopus, 1 crystal, and 1 neutral robot. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to find some random space. So let's just pick this one here. You're going to start with this. You're going to start with this. I'm going to take the neutral robot and I'm going to put it inside the control room there. Alright, then you're going to find the other one. They're going to start with 3 octopus, 2 crystals, and a neutral robot. So let's pick this one here. Neutral robot. And the last space is going to get a neutral robot and a neutral submarine. There you go. So let's say it was this one here. And there you go. We're pretty much ready to go. Let's go to the rules. Alright, welcome to the overview section for Aquasphere. So this game is really hard to try to explain at a high level, but I'll do my best. Alright, so in essence, what you're doing in this game is you're going to be moving your scientist around the main game board here, which is called the station, and each station has sectors, so you're going to be moving around and performing actions in each of these sectors. They're all color coded, and I'll explain all these actions later on in the video, but you'll be getting cards and lab extensions and killing octopus and so on and so on. Alright, but to perform any action on this board, you're going to need a programmed robot to help you perform that action. Okay, and that leads us to the other type of action you can do on your turn, which is programming your robot, and that's where you're going to be using your engineer on this board here to program those robots. Alright, so it's a sort of 2-step process to do any action in this game. Alright, you're going to need a robot, program him here, and then use your robot with your scientist on this board to do the action. Alright, so high level, that's what you're trying to do. Now, the game's going to last exactly 4 rounds. You sort of track the rounds with these programming cards here. And at the end of those 4 rounds, whoever's the most points, you have a little track here, is going to win the game. Alright, there are 2 different types of scoring in the game. There's the end game scoring, which is normal in most games, but there's also intermediate or intermittent scoring that you're going to be doing in between rounds to try to gain extra points. Alright, I'll talk about that during the scoring section later on in this video. Alright, so let's go into detail on how to program a robot and how to use your robots, and then the scoring, and then you should be ready to go. So let's get started. Alright, so like I mentioned in the overview, the first type of action you can do is programming a robot. Alright, so what do I mean by programming a robot? It always means taking a robot from the bottom row here and moving it to the top. So these are unprogrammed robots and these are programmed robots, and you always start taking them from the far left, working your way to the right. Alright. You're going to see here on your player board it's written A, and the 2 ways of programming a robot is either moving your engineer in the headquarters or by paying time. Okay, so let's look at the engineer first. So the engineer is going to move in the headquarters, and they're always going to move 1 spot. You got to follow the arrows, and the spot that he lands in is the colored sort of robot you're going to program. Okay, so to start off the round here, I can move to either this one or this one, follow the arrows, and let's just say I want to program a red robot. I'd go there, and what you're going to do is you're going to, again, always take it from the far left and add it to your programmed section up here. Okay, that's using your engineer. Okay, very important rule in this game. I'm not going to mention it again, but at any time in the game, you can never have more than 2 programmed robots up here. Okay, so once you have 2, you can't use your next action to program another robot because you're already filled up. Okay. Now the other way to program a robot, so that was the engineer, is to use time. So you're going to see here it costs 3 time to program any robot you want. So that power you can only use once per round. Okay, so until everyone passes, you can only use it once. And what you're going to do is you're going to take one of those 3 time markers. You're going to place it up here in the top right of your player board to indicate that you've used that power. The other 2 can be placed back into the general supply. Alright, and then you get to program any robot you want. So let's just say I want to program a purple one. Like that. And those are basically the 2 ways of programming a robot. Sorry, I missed a very important rule here. At any point in the game on your turn, you can actually deprogram one of your robots to get 2 time. So let's say I really want to program a blue robot, but I already have 2 programmed robots. I can deprogram one of them, get 2 time from the supply, and then use my engineer in the lab to program the robot that I wanted, or spend time to get the robot that I wanted. Alright, the other type of action that you can do on your turn that I mentioned in the overview is using your robots along with your scientist on the station board here to perform your actions, okay? So, this is a sort of 2-step process. So I'm going to talk about the rules in regards to your scientist and robots first, and then we're going to talk about all the different actions and how that affects your game. Alright, so when you want to move your scientist, you're just going to go to a different sector and in the region where you want to perform the action. Okay, so let's say I had a yellow robot programmed and I want to go to a yellow space. I would move my scientist to where he's going to perform that action. So I can either go to this one here, but maybe I'll go to this sector here to go get these time tokens over here. Okay, the cost of moving your scientist from sector to sector, all right, remember it's optional. You can stay in the same sector and perform a different action in that area, but the cost is going to be the cost in the tunnel spaces in between the sector you're moving from to the sector you're moving to. So in this example here, I would pay 0 plus 1 time, pay to the general supply, and then move my scientist where he wants to go. Okay, you must move to a sector or color where you have a robot ready to be used. Okay, you can't move to a random place and not use a robot. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, there's also no blocking in this game. You can all be in the same area, in the same sector. It doesn't really matter. Alright, those are the rules for moving your scientist. After that, what you're going to do is you're going to use your robot. So you're going to take your robot in the colored region that matches the action you want to do, and he's going to go in the control space of that sector. Okay, the control space is the sort of lettered area right in the middle. Okay, any robot that's currently there is going to get displaced into the loading zone below. Okay, so this is going to go up here, and then this is going to drop into the loading zone. Now, I'm going to talk about the loading zone. At any point, if it gets overflowed, so in a 3-player game, you're going to see over here, you can have at most 4 robots. So when you are to place your 5th robot, what you're going to do is you're going to return robots back to the players, except for 1. So in this example here, blue will get 1 robot returned and red will get 1 robot returned, and these will go back onto their player boards. Okay, and the rest would stay on the loading zone. Okay, and now you're ready to do the action. So you got to move your scientist, add your robot to the control panel, and then do the action. So let's talk about all the actions and how they work. Alright, the first action with the green robot here is to pick up one of these lab extensions on the game board. Alright, so the sector that you activate them is going to be the lab extension. So if you activate this one, you're going to get this one. If you activate this one, you're going to get this one. All right, when you pick one of these up, they get added to your lab. So you're going to go to your player board area here, and you're going to add it as an extension to your lab. Now these are very, very, very important. Okay, so the letters are used for endgame scoring. Couple of rules on these lab extensions. If you take any extension with a letter on it, what you get to do is take one of the robots that you have unprogrammed and actually place it in the control space of that letter. So here would be D. You'd find D on the game board, wherever it is. Let's say this was D. You just place it in there. If there was a robot there, you would displace it back into the loading area like you would when you move your scientist and activate a space. Okay. The next thing lab extensions let you do is it increases your ability to do the other actions in the game, and that's why I'm talking about this action first. Okay, so these icons all represent your sort of ability to hold on to resources or sort of kill octopus when you do an action. So in this example here, now that I have 3 octopus symbols, when I go do the purple action in the future, I'll be able to kill 3 octopus instead of just 2 because I have an extension. All right, just like time, let's say I'm collecting time, my personal supply here. Right now I can only hold 4, but if I had an extension with more time, then I would be able to hold more time. Same thing with crystals. Right now I can only hold 2 crystals, but if I had another extension, I can hold more crystals. And lastly, there are the cards. Right now I can only hold 2 cards, but I can hold more cards depending on my lab. All right, so lab extensions, pretty important. it adds your ability to hold more stuff and kill more octopus. Alright, the next action we're going to talk about is the yellow robot here, which is getting time. Alright, so remember, your lab extension tells you what your max capacity for time is. So right now it's going to be 4 without any other extensions. So when I go gather time around the game board, I would only be able to get at most 4. So if there were more than 4 time in a sector, I would get 4. Alright, there are some very specific rules in regards to time though. At a minimum, you always get at least 2 time. So even if you go to a sector that has no time tokens, you'll pick up at least 2 time from the general supply. All right, so there's always time available. Even if there was only 1 token on there, you take up the 1 token and you'll take the 2nd token from the general supply. All right, always remember to look at your limit here. So if you were at 3, you'd only still be able to pick up 1 time token. Next is the black take crystals action over here. So it's the black robot. So that just works just like time. The sector that you're in, you're going to pick up all the crystals that are available in that sector. Again, you got to always look at your max capacity. So if I was holding 1 and there were 3 crystals in that area, I would only pick up 1 crystal because it would reach my max capacity. Alright, next we're going to talk about the purple robot, which is killing octopods. Alright, so for this action here, what you're going to do is move your scientists to a purple sector and kill the octopods that are there. Now the amount of octopods you can kill, remember, always tied to your max capacity of your lab. So I'll be able to kill 3 octopus right now, and every time you kill octopus, they always go back to the general supply. So I'd be able to kill all 3. Now, you're also going to score when you kill octopus. All right, I forgot to mention, but you can actually look at the summary down here and I'll tell you the summary if you score points. So the octopus, you're going to see a question mark. That's because the points you score is equal to how many you killed. So you're going to score always in the Fibonacci series of numbers. So you can sort of get a summary over here, but if you kill 1, it's 1 point. If you kill 2, it's 2 points. Kill 3, it's 6 points, and so on and so on. If you get 4, it's 10 points, and you're going to keep going up and up and up. All right, this is just for the intermediate scoring, but it sort of works the exact same way. All right, if you don't kill all the octopods that are there, the ones that are left over are going to stay in that space. All right, the next robot to talk about is the blue placing submarine robot here, and that one's going to allow you to put submarines from your player board onto the main game board. Okay, a very important rule though is you can never have more than 1 submarine per sector. That's why you have 6 submarines, 1 per sector. So for example, I wouldn't be able to add another submarine here because I already have a submarine. But for example, I could add a submarine here because I don't have one. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your submarine. You always take the one on the farthest to the left, just like you would a robot. And you're going to place it on the lowest valued time marker on the track. So it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to pay the amount of time to the general supply equal to that spot. So for that spot, for example, I would have to pay 1 time to the general supply. When you place your submarine, it's a 1-time bonus. You're going to score points equal to the point value in the middle of the board here. So the later on in the game that you place a submarine, you're going to get more points, but early on you'll get a better benefit because submarines are great because they give you time tokens in between rounds. They also let you score for your robots according to how far your submarines have gone, but I'll talk about all of that during the intermediate scoring section of the video. Alright, and that's basically it. Just as a general reminder, you got to remember never to have more than 1 submarine per sector, and the next person that would go into that area would have to pay more time because there'll be 2, and then the player after that would have to pay 3, and then 4, so on and so on. Alright, the next robot to talk about is the red research card robot over here. And for this one, what you're going to be doing is taking the top card in the sector where you're activating your scientist. So if you're activating him here, you're going to take the top card of the stack here, or if you were here, you're going to take the top card of the stack here. Now, you got to always follow the rule for the limits that I previously mentioned. So you're going to count the red symbols in your lab, and that's as many cards as you have in your tableau. As a general note, even if you have to discard the card or it's a 1-time use, you never discard that card. It'll stay in your tableau, so it'll count towards your limit. Okay. There are 4 different types of cards in the game, so let's just go through them one at a time. There's these equal signs here on the left. This means during intermediate scoring, you can do something. The one with the infinity sign is just a general power that you have for the rest of the game. This is just states when you do something, then something will happen. The lightning bolt is when you get the card, you get to activate the power right away 1 time. And remember, these stay in your tableau area, you don't discard them. And lastly, there's the 1x. These work just like the lightning bolts, except you get to choose when you want to use it. All right, so anytime during the game, use the card, and what I like to do is you flip it over just to indicate to everyone that you've used this power, and it'll still count towards your limit. And lastly, we're going to talk about the most complex action here, which is the white space robot. And this lets you activate the white spaces in each sector. All right, so in essence, what this does is just think about you're using a robot to program another robot. Okay, so I'll just show you with an example. Let's say my scientist was in this sector here. I'm going to use my white robot, all right, to then program a different robot. All right, so here it's the yellow space, so I'm going to take another robot and program a yellow robot here. All right, so if you were going to activate your scientist here, you'd always look at the color coded sector right above that white space. So this is to get a red robot, this is to get a blue one, which is a submarine, this is to kill an octopod, this is to get a lab extension, and finally this is to get crystals. All right, so you always have to look at the color of the white sector where you're activating your scientist, and that's the robot you're going to sort of program. All right, and the third and final thing you can do on your turn is passing. I know I said 2 during the overview and during the explanation, but I don't really count passing as an action because you've basically run out of things to do and you're passing for the round. Okay, you're only going to ever do this when your engineer has reached the top row, because you can always get a robot by moving him up. All right, and when you don't want to really use your robots, or you run out of robots to use on your main board, you have to pass. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to take your engineer and place him on the lowest value up here, and this is going to be the following round's turn order. All right, so this is the current round's turn order, and this is going to be the next round turn order. All right, so after everyone passes, you're supposed to go to intermediate scoring, but I'm going to talk about that in the next section. Right now I'm going to talk about what happens after intermediate scoring. You're basically just going to do like a reset of the game board, all right, sort of thing to get ready for the following round. Okay, so it's pretty simple. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to take 6 cards off the top of the deck, and you're going to add them to the different stacks. If there are cards already there, it doesn't really matter, it just goes on top. Just do it for all of them. Then you're going to do the exact same thing for the lab tiles. So you're going to take 6 and you're going to put them on top of the lab tiles that are already there. So just fill them up like usual. Okay, then after that, what you're going to do is you're going to look at the center space over here, and you're going to populate the regions. That's why the sort of orientation at the beginning of the game matters. So the orientation here, where it's pointing, you're going to put that amount of resources in that sector. All right, so for example here in this sector, I'm going to add a crystal and an octopod. All right, and you're going to do that for all the regions. So in this sector here, you're going to put an octopod and 3 time tokens. Okay, the only thing you really need to watch out for when doing this step, it's very important that you never add time markers. Every other resource you're adding to it, all right, but time markers, if you're adding time markers, you wipe out the time markers that were already there. All right, so for example here, you're adding 3 to this sector. What you're going to do is you're going to wipe it out and then put 3. Okay, and you basically do that for all the sectors that you're pointing to. If there was nothing there, like here there was no time, you'll just add 5 time markers there. Okay, and in a 2 and 3 player game, the only other thing you need to watch out for is there are always going to be submarines here pointing. So you're going to go take the neutral submarine and you're going to add it to that sector. Okay, now the normal rule of having multiple submarines in the same sector still applies. So if there was already a white one in this sector or neutral color, you wouldn't be able to add another submarine here because there's already one there. All right, so keep in mind. All right, the last thing you're going to do during reset is reorder the turn order and reset the sort of headquarters here. So for the turn order, what you're going to do is you're going to set the robots in the current order that they are for the engineers on top. So in this example here, you'll have yellow going first this round, then you'll have blue, and then finally red will go third. All right, then you can move the engineers back to the bottom as a reset. All right, after that you can throw the top card of the programming card deck back into the box. All right, and then you're going to reorganize the new tokens according to the new card over here. So let's move these around, and you know what to do. You just move things where they're supposed to be, so on and so on and so on, and something like this. All right, and then you're ready to go to the next round. All right, before we go into intermediate scoring and endgame scoring here, I'm just going to talk a bit about this scoring board because there's a interesting mechanic that goes along with it. Okay, so while you're scoring points, eventually you're going to encounter these red lines. All right, these are sort of stopping you unless you pay something to go past it. So let's say I was here and I gained 10 points. I would only gain 2 unless I paid something to go past the red. All right, what do you need to pay? Well, you have 2 options. First is you can pay a crystal. So you're going to go to your personal supply, take a crystal and dump it into the general supply to go past it. So let's say I gain 3 points here. I'll go 1, 2, pay a crystal, and then cross the red line. All right. Now the other option you have is to deprogram a robot. So let's say I didn't have any crystals, but I did have a programmed robot up here. I can deprogram it by moving it back into my stock at the bottom here. And that'll allow me to cross a red line as well. So you always have to sort of gauge that, what you're going to do to cross a red line. All right, the first kind of scoring we're going to talk about is the intermediate scoring, which happens at the end of every round. And you know it's the end of the round when everyone's passed. All right, so when everyone's tokens are up here, you're sort of going to score. All right. The symbol for the intermediate scoring is the sort of double I or equal sign sideways icon here, and we're gonna basically score this section of the board right over here. So go in order and just go through it. So everyone's gonna look at their submarines and get time markers. So for example here I will get 2 time markers from the general supply. Next, if you had any research cards with that icon, you're gonna activate them. For example, if I had this card in front of me, I would activate the card. Next, we're gonna have a sort of area majority for the control on the main board. All right, so the control spaces on the main board are only the center spaces. So whoever owns or has control of the most center spaces is gonna get 6 points, and everyone else is gonna get nothing. So for example, if red had 4 robots in the center zone and blue had only 2, red would get 6 points. But if red had 3 and blue had 3, every player that's tied is going to get 3 points instead of one person getting 6. That's where the 6 and the 3 comes into play. All right, after that, you're going to score your robots. All right, so you're going to score your highest robot on your track. So in this example here, you're going to score 4 points. All right. But in this example, you're not going to score 8. There is a stipulation on that scoring is that you need to sort of align your submarine. So the most you're going to score is where your submarine has been uncovered. So here I'm going to score 6 points instead of 8 points. If I had removed this submarine and put it on the game board, then I would have scored 8. All right, even if I remove all my robots and I still have these submarines left on my board, I would still only score 6 points. All right, so you sort of have to move up your submarines as well. All right, and after that, you're gonna look at your supply of crystals. So you're gonna be collecting crystals. You're gonna score them in the Fibonacci style again. So again, if you need to see the chart for Fibonacci, you can look at the letter chart over here. But if you had 1, it's 1 point, 2 is 3, 3 is 6 points, 4 is 10 points. All right, and then lastly, you're gonna lose points. All right, this is the only way to really lose points in this game. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna look at where your scientist is on the station. All right, so in this example, he's here. And you're going to look at the octopods that are in that sector. All right, so in this example here, there's only 1 octopod. Okay, and then you're going to lose points equal to how many octopods there are using, again, the Fibonacci series. So if there's only 1, you're going to lose 1 point. All right, if there's 2 octopods, you lose 3 points. If there's 3, you lose 6, so on and so on. Just look at the chart here. All right, this is the only way to lose points in this game, and there's a very important rule. You can never fall behind a red line that you've already passed. So if you were at like 15 points here and you were to lose 3 points, for example, you'd only lose the 2 points and you wouldn't lose the 3rd point because it would have made you go past a red line. All right, so being past the red line is putting you in a sort of safe zone. And that's pretty much all the intermediate scoring you have to do. And finally, we get to end game scoring. So after 4 rounds, you're going to do the 4th intermediate scoring, and then you're going to go straight to final scoring. Now, during final scoring, very important, you don't have to pay anything to go past red lines. Okay, so this is the only time where you're scoring that you don't have to pay through red lines. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to score just what's at the bottom right of your player board here. So this big block here means end game scoring. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at your lab and you're going to score the unique letters appearing on your lab. All right, so in this example here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 unique letters. This one would not count because I already have a C. So again, you look down the track and I would score 15 points because I have 5 unique characters. Okay, after that, you're going to score 1 point for each remaining time marker in your supply. Next, if you were able to put out all 6 of your submarines, you're going to score 5 points. And lastly, if you were able to complete your lab, so have it complete circle here, you're going to score 5 points. Remember, all these points here, you don't have to pick crystals or anything to go past red lines. And there you go. At the end of that scoring, whoever has the most points is going to win the game. All right, those are all the rules. Hope you enjoyed it. Click on the link below to go to my playthrough. Please like, subscribe, and comment on my videos. That'll be fantastic. We'll see you in the next one.